Hi folks. Well, anyone that's watched my video from last night will have seen that I basically decided that the loom was the problem with my starter circuit not working. So this is what's happened to my loom. I've decided that it's rubbish, and so I've removed it from the bike. I decided I can't be bothered with it anymore, it's too much trouble, so I've just gotten rid of it. And what I've done this morning is I've been out to Maplin's and bought a whole bunch of stuff basically to make up my own loom. I spent about 40 quid, which is not too bad when you think I spent 70 quid on that rubbish loom that doesn't work. So I got some thick cable, like 30 amp cable, starter circuits and stuff like that. I got some twin core stuff, which is about 15 amp I think, and then I got some kind of thinner cables like this. These are about 350 each, these packets, to do sort of like indicators and whatnot. And then I got a couple of inline fuses as well. I'll probably do like one fuse for the, I don't know, one fuse for the ignition and one fuse for everything else or something like that. And then I bought packets of spade connectors, male spade connectors. There's some that I've opened up, and I also bought a lot of these small spade connectors. These are to go into like blocks of block connectors for stuff like this. That's the switch gear for the right hand handlebar. Pretty much all of the electrical stuff on the bike has these, like all the indicator, lighting circuits, clocks, all that type of thing has these type of fittings. So I needed to get plenty of these. So this is the small spade connectors. They're a perfect fit for these blocks. So basically I'm just going to do my own loom. I've actually started working on it. Been working on it for the last couple of hours, and basically what I've done is I've made a starter circuit. This is the beginning of my own loom, okay. I did a design before which I scrapped and started again because it didn't include some of the things that I needed to include in it, like the start button and stuff like that. So essentially what we've got here is we've got the battery in the centre, obviously that's earthed, and then we've got a positive from the battery going to the starter relay and main fuse, which is here, and then you've got a positive going from the starter relay out to the starter motor, which is there, and then the starter motor is earthed to the chassis, same as the battery. So that makes the circuit, so battery, starter relay, starter motor, earth, and back to the battery like that. Now that obviously that's the starter motor circuit. Then you've got the starter button circuit that operates the starter relay, okay. So this is the rest of the circuit here, okay. So we've got the red cable, which is like positive, takes the juice actually from the battery, and that's wired into what I've labelled here as IB, which is the ignition barrel, okay. And then we've got a black cable going from the ignition barrel to what I've labelled SB, which is a starter button. And then this, on the original wiring, this would be yellow red, that's why I put Y/R there, but in my case it's just cable, it's just red, sorry, so I'm just using pretty much entirely red and black cable. Just keep it simple, you know, save buying loads of different cables. So this is a red cable, it comes down here back into the starter relay and completes, well, it doesn't actually complete the circuit. The circuit is completed by the earth relay, which again on the original bike would have been green. I've just used black cable that basically earths onto the chassis, okay. So how it works is that, by the way, that's the regulator, the voltage regulator for the charging system, and again that would be connected with a red white wire to the starter relay. Again, I haven't actually wired that bit in yet, I've still to do the charging system. I'll probably just be using a red cable there rather than red white, but anyway, you get the idea. Right, so basically how it works is juice comes from the battery to the starter relay, goes out the red wire, round the red wire up to the ignition barrel. Right, so when you turn the key in the ignition barrel, that joins the circuit at that point. Juice goes down the black wire to the starter button. So when you press the starter button, juice then goes down the other red wire and back to the relay, through the relay and out into the earth. Okay, and then obviously from the earth through the chassis back to the battery. So when you press, so once you've turned the key, when you press the starter button, that completes the circuit, and what that does is that then makes the starter relay operate. Okay, and then you get that sort of click click sound from the starter relay, and that then in turn joins the circuit from the battery to the starter motor, and that should then operate at the starter motor now. So what I've done to test it, I've disconnected the main lead to the starter motor because I don't actually want to test the starter motor at this point. I do actually know that the starter motor works because I've tested it separately. So what I've done is I've just disconnected that, put a bit of rubber around it and cable tied it just so it doesn't touch the chassis and cause a short circuit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you that wiring in practice, the wiring that I just showed you on the diagram. Right, this is where it goes actually on the bike. So you've got a positive terminal on the battery, juice goes down this wire into the starter relay. Then again, you can't really see it because it's kind of dark, I think, but there's another cable comes off the relay here, right, a thick cable, and goes down. Well, actually that's that one is disconnected at the moment, but it would be connected onto the top of the starter motor, which is there. Excuse me. Okay, so that's that positive circuit, and then your negative circuit, you've got the negative earth from the battery there, which again it kind of disappears down into the bike, but it's anchored on there. Okay, and then the starter motor negative circuit, that's that one there, that's fastened with a, it's kind of hard to see, there's an Allen bolt in there, and that then joins that onto the chassis. So this is my earth point here, everything's earthed on here onto this bit at this point. So the battery, the starter motor and the starter relay are all earthed onto that same place, so I know I've got a good solid earth there, and there's no danger that, you know, that it's not going to earth effectively. Right, so that's the starter circuit. Then you've got the starter button circuit. Okay, so juice comes from the battery through the starter relay, through the main fuse in this case, and goes into this thick red cable, right, which is plugged into this block connector, which goes to the ignition barrel, which is down here. Okay, and then obviously when the ignition's turned on in that position, the electricity goes back up this cable into the thick black cable, right, and this black cable is part of this twin core cable, which is plugged into here using one of those little tiny spade connectors that I was showing you before. Right, and if you trace that, then that then goes up to, it's plugged into wait a sec, which one's which? Yeah, the black cable is plugged into the port on this block connector, which goes into the black and red cable, which if you look at the Haynes manual tells you is a circuit for the starter button, which is there. So when you press the starter button, the juice then, that completes the circuit. The juice comes back down here, comes down the red and yellow cable, which is that one there, into this white block connector, and then into this red cable, which is part of this pair, and then it comes back here and goes back into the starter solenoid. The starter solenoid then operates, and the juice comes down here into this thick black cable, which is then earthed back on there. So essentially it's going battery, starter relay, ignition barrel, back to that block connector, and then from there up to these block connectors, up to the start button, from the start button back down, back into the starter relay, through the starter relay, and through the black cable and back onto the chassis, and then obviously back through the chassis to the battery. So that's what makes a circuit. Okay, so essentially in a starter circuit you've got two circuits. You've got the actual starter motor circuit, which is like the really high amperage circuit that that you need to obviously to run the starter motor, and then you've got a much lower amperage circuit, which is the one that goes to the starter button and through the ignition barrel and all that. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do, turn the music down a sec. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So, turn the key to the on position, press the start button, and as you can hear, the starter relay operates. So that's basically that starter circuit working now. Obviously that doesn't test the starter motor, but I already know the starter motor works, so that's fine. So that will get connected back up, and I know that at this stage basically I've got a bike that will turn over on the key. If it doesn't, I don't know what's going on. So basically I will connect that up, I will test it properly, I'll connect it up and test the starter motor at some point. But at this point in time I've basically got a working starter circuit. So that's kind of a relief, because it was a bit of a worry that I wasn't really getting to the bottom of it. So I'm quite glad that I kind of bit the bullet, got rid of that rubbish old loom, and basically started from scratch. So that's kind of the good news. The bad news is now, of course, I've got to basically rewire the whole damn thing. So I've worked out I'm going to need ignition. I'm going to need about seven circuits to get everything to work. Ignition, charging, radiator fan, headlights, indicators, brake lights, and clocks or instruments. So I think it's about 7 circuits. So there's about maybe 2 days work there. So the plan was to put it in for its MOT tomorrow afternoon, but that's only 24 hours away, so realistically that's not going to happen. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching.